Hello guys, it's TZK and today I'm going to be discussing everything I want to see in Killing Floor 3, along with things which I don't want to see. I was planning on making this video a long time ago, but I decided to leave it until I fully researched it and discovered what things would actually fit with the game, what wouldn't. So I had a long thought about what would actually work with the game and what doesn't, and I'm going to compile it all into this one video just to show off my opinions, and yeah, let's begin. Okay, so the first and most obvious thing I want to see is objective mode, and I was a bit disappointed with Last Man Standing update because they didn't have objective mode, and it would have been the perfect ending to Killing Floor 2, but Tripwire have just been really lazy with this mode for like the past few years. They're not even doing it anymore. And I would like to see this mode come back and at least put a bit more care into, because they've just abandoned this game mode, and it was so popular in Killing Floor 1. It wasn't as good in Killing Floor 2 because it was a bit repetitive and boring, but if they can rework it to the Killing Floor 1 standard, I reckon this game mode will be highly successful. Another mode I want to see is story mode. Killing Floor 3 already has some lore about it, such as the Nightfall group and the Horzine specimens. So some story mode would actually work well with this mode. It will just provide us a bigger picture of what's going on in the game, if you get what I mean. Another thing I would like to see is some new perks implemented into the game. Like, they could go with an LMG class for Killing Floor 2. Like, you could have the MG3, the Stoner, or the minigun. And I reckon that would actually work, because you could have skills like faster reload speed, faster movement speed. Like, things that LMGs struggle with. They could base the skill set around that. And I think an LMG perk would actually work well in Killing Floor 2, if done right by Tripwire. However, the only problem is there's already like 10 perks in Killing Floor 2, so there may be a little bit too much, which is why I wouldn't really add too many perks. I'd probably add like 2 more perks into Killing Floor 3 if I was Tripwire, but then again, they might remove a few perks, I don't know yet. Like, they could combine Gunslinger with Sharpshooter, which I don't think they will, because I don't think many people will like that, because people like me like Gunslinger, so yeah, I think combining some perks to make space for others, I don't think it's going to work very well. But if they do decide to add some perks, I would honestly recommend like an LMG class, because like I said before, the skills they will add, it would just add up so well. Next up is the return of old weapons such as the HSG-1 shotgun, the AK-47, the boomstick. All those weapons that made the game unique back in Killing Floor 1, gave it its identity. It basically made the perks stand out from the rest. Like, for example, support, everyone knows the boomstick and the AA-12. That's what makes support so iconic and special. Bringing back the old weapons will just satisfy the perk, make it a lot more funner. Also, if they bring back the neon skins for those weapons, that would be quite nice. Like how the HSG-1 has that red neon weapon skin. That would look quite nice. And also the Chris SMG for the medic in Killing Floor 1 that had like a blue RGB skin, that would look really nice too. Like, just bringing back the old weapons, it would just make the game more iconic. Another thing I want to see in the new Killing Floor 3 is better seasonal updates. The last few updates over the last few years have been a little bit lackluster. Like, they've been good and all, but there's just nothing too special about them, or like really much content to keep you going back to the game. So, like, a unique update which offers unique features and replayability would be really good, as it will bring back players to the game. And better seasonal rewards will be better as well, not some silly backpack which you don't even need. Just better rewards and like better seasonal stuff would, honestly, it would make the game a lot more playable and popular. Like, for example, in Hellmark Station, when you can sacrifice health, like, unique features like that will make the seasonal events a lot more enjoyable and replayable. And speaking of seasonal events, I would also like to see more original maps, because the maps in the seasonal events, they've just been workshop rip-offs. Like, what Tripwire have done is they've literally just took a map off a workshop and based an event around it. And I would have liked something a little bit more original, because the workshop maps are they're literally just Killing Floor 2 maps. They've just reused the assets on there. I mean, a bit more original maps, something built from the ground up, something originally built by Tripwire would actually be good. Because I mean, I don't really want workshop maps in seasonal updates. It just makes it look cheap and rushed. Also, the workshop maps you get in the seasonal updates, they don't even change. Like, from the original to the seasonal, they don't change at all. Literally all Tripwire does is add some lighting or something, and then that's it. They just put it into the new update. Like, they hardly change a thing about it. Like, if you want to play the map, you may as well just download it off the workshop. It's the same thing. Next up on the list is music, and I would honestly like to see the same genre of music continue in Killing Floor 3. And the music does sort of concern me in Killing Floor 3, because Killing Floor 3 is going to be futuristic, so I got a feeling they might change like the genre or the tone of the music, which I don't blame them. I don't really mind that, but as long as they keep to their original music genre, then I don't mind. Also, if we can see bands like Demon Hunter and Living Sacrifice return in Killing Floor 3, that would be awesome. Just those bands which gave Killing Floor its identity and makes it stand out. If they can bring those back, I'm sure that Killing Floor 3 will be a success. And next thing I want to see is the improvement on the gore in the game. Like, it isn't bad, but it's not really noticeable after a few hours. Like, the first time you play Killing Floor 3, you'll notice the gore in the game, and then when you've played like 600 hours of the game like I have, you just don't really notice it anymore. It doesn't really become that interesting, and there's not really enough of it in my opinion. So maybe a bit more would actually look better in my opinion. The next thing I want to see in Killing Floor 3 is a weapon level up system. So what I mean by this is, like, you use a weapon, you level it up, and you unlock like attachments and stuff, and you even unlock like weapon skins. I think this would work well with Killing Floor 3. I think if they took like Black Ops 3 Zombies system, where you had to use a gun and level it up, I think that would work really well. And I think this would be a better concept of unlocking weapon skins rather than getting it from a loot box, because that way you're getting weapon skins for the weapon you actually want, rather than having to rely on like RNG to get something you don't want. And I think weapon attachments would be pretty cool. It allows more customization, it allows people to customize the weapon how they want. Like, if they want less recoil, they can go for like stabilizer. If they want longer range, they can use sights. It allows the user to customize the weapon to how they want and how they play, which I think would be a really cool feature in Killing Floor 3 if they did implement this. Another thing I would like is a vault rework. In Killing Floor 2, the vault, it's kind of useless because all you do is collect money, you don't even use it. Like, I've got like 100 million just sat in my vault doing nothing, and it just sits there, it doesn't even do anything. If you could do things like buy weapon skins or like buy weapon upgrades or something, like that would actually be really useful. Like, just things you can use it on instead of it being sat there doing nothing. I would honestly like to see some more use with it. And I think the vault money can be used for other things. Like, maybe you can use it to buy cosmetics for your character or something. Like, just a bit more use with Vault Dash would honestly go a long way. Finally, the last thing I want to see is Workshop continued in Killing Floor 3. The workshop was very popular in Killing Floor 2, and it's basically kept the game alive whilst the updates were pretty much dead. You had loads of great maps on the workshop, such as the SpongeBob map, the Mario map. There were so many great maps in the Killing Floor 2 workshop, and if they continue this in Killing Floor 3, I think it will keep the game alive for a long time. Even after the game gets boring, people will still use the workshop as a way to play the game, and overall I think it would actually keep the game alive. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the things which I don't want to see in Killing Floor 3. And one of the most obvious things, one of the biggest things I don't want to see in Killing Floor 3 is HRG reskins. And this is a big issue for me in Killing Floor 2, because most of the HRG weapons are literally just the same as original weapons, except just HRG. Like, for example, they took the RPG and turned it into a HRG medic missile, which is basically an RPG except it fires healing grenades. Like, that's literally all it does. It's the exact same thing as the RPG. Like, if you're going to make a HRG weapon, at least make it different from an already existing weapon. Like, I don't mind HRG weapons very much, but if you are going to make a HRG weapon, don't make it the exact same thing as an already existing weapon, because it just looks cheap and rushed. It looks like you've just rushed it. So if you're going to put time and effort into a HRG weapon, don't make it the exact same thing. Also, speaking of HRG, another thing I don't want to see is pointless HRG weapons. Like, for example, they recently released the 93R pistol, which is the exact same thing as the 9mm, except it just shoots burst fire. Like, there's nothing special about it. It doesn't fire lasers or, like, puts a shield up. It literally just fires burst fire. It just shoots and bursts a freeze. Like, what's the point of that? Why is that even a HRG weapon? It doesn't even do anything. It just shoots 3 bullets. Like, if you're going to make a pointless HRG weapon, you may as well just not make it HRG at all and just release it as a normal weapon. Like, what's the point of releasing a HRG weapon if it's just going to be a burst fire pistol? Another thing I don't want to see in Killing Floor 3 is weapon crossovers. Like, weapons that are on more than one perk, I don't really want to see. Like, most of the weapons, they do fit into 2 perks. And I don't mind weapon crossovers very much, I actually quite like them. However, I feel like it does ruin a few perks. For example, the Piranha pistols on Berserker. Berserker is a melee class, it should not be ranged, but for some reason they put a ranged weapon on a melee class. Like, seriously, what are you doing? Just go back to the drawing board and remake the Berserker, because it should not be a ranged perk. Another thing I don't want to see is EDARs. They honestly make me unhappy when I see them. Like, they just ruin the whole game. They ruin Killing Floor 2, they do. Like, they don't fit with the game. Like, they literally ruin the flow of Killing Floor. Like, why did Tripwire think putting EDARs, a fucking robot, in a game was a good idea? Most of the Zeds are made out of flesh, and then you just got that one robot who's made out of bolts and metal. Like, seriously, Tripwire, did you not think things through? And the thing that makes me laugh is nobody actually wanted EDARs, but Tripwire, they just didn't listen. They just decided, oh yeah, let's just throw them in anyway. And finally, last but not least, the last thing which I don't want in Killing Floor 3 is loot boxes. And in my opinion, these ruin the game, because they didn't really give you anything good. Like, you literally got mostly face paint or character cosmetics, which didn't even look that great. I would recommend Tripwire implement this into more of the weapon attachments thing, which I discussed earlier. So it's like, you level up your weapon and you unlock a weapon skin for that weapon, instead of having to rely on the loot box to get something you don't want in the end. Like, if you actually work towards a weapon skin or like a weapon cosmetic which you actually wanted, instead of getting it out of like an RNG loot box, that would be so much better. And also, another thing I don't want to see is weapon material crafting and stuff like that. It's just pointless. You literally recycle like current cosmetics into these material things just to get another pointless weapon upgrade or like cosmetic. It's just the biggest scam and waste of money in my opinion. Anyway guys, this is where I'm going to end the video here. Did you agree with my list? Do you not disagree? What do you think I missed? If there is anything I missed, like comment down below. But yeah, this is literally everything I would like in Killing Floor 3. And I was going to do this video a long time ago, but I decided to leave it just to fully think about it before I committed to this video. Just because I wanted to make sure I had everything in this video. I didn't want to make sure I didn't miss anything. But if there's anything that I did miss or something which you think would be cool to see in Killing Floor 3, then do let me know down below. But I'm going to end it here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.